48 years ago, Pyotr Patrushev did an amazing thing. He swam from the Soviet Union to Turkey. We left his story just after he'd stolen a horse and sleigh to make his escape from a psychiatric institute in Tomsk.
Fortuitously, an old friend from the college, his mother was living in Batumi, the city on the Black Sea coast, which was extremely important because that's near the border zone, and unless you have some connection, you just can't, you can't find a place even to stay. Here is the city of Batumi. And usually as soon as you walk off train station or a plane, you're arrested by the KGB unless you have proper papers and all that. But I had a place to go to.
So they were alert to the possibility that this is an escape route.
It was happening all the time.
Was it?
It was happening all the time.
People were trying.
Hundreds of people tried, both over land and on the sea. Most of them would get caught as they walked off the train or plane in Batumi.
You'd established Batumi as a residence now.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. And I became a member of a swimming. That's the only way. Again, I bypassed all the usual checks that people get to get registration in that city.
Yeah.
So they probably didn't even look at my, deep down into my diagnosis. You see, I was a swimmer that they wanted for the competition that was coming up. They had nobody of my standard. Immediately part of the team, given a fake job at a factory with engineer's salary. Training full time.
You look like you're ready to go there. Your leg muscles, wow.
Yeah, I was doing a lot of long distance swimming to somewhat the consternation of my coach, but I explained that that's the latest American technique.
And they believed you.
And they believed me.
But that wasn't your real reason, of course.
That wasn't the real reason at all.
And then what happened?
And then, I was in training, and so, physically I was ready to go. I got my flippers. And you had to totally kind of disguise your departure, find a place to get in the water because the whole border is strictly guarded. The city beaches are shut down at dusk, 6 o'clock or so in the evening. If you come out, you get arrested by the border guards who continue patrol. So you had to find a safe place to get in the water, which I did, because I lived close by and you could, And I
was the
like
season important about when to swim?
Tremendously important, and it was fortunately early June. So water is warm. You had to choose a day where there were some waves, but not very rough, because if there are no waves, they would see you, splashing and all that, So anxiously every day you wait for the right kind of wind and wave conditions, and one day comes, and then you have to kind of pack your little goodies, your flippers, your basic documentation. It's funny, you go to a foreign country, you risk your life, but as a Soviet citizen, you've got to bring your documents with you because nobody's going to believe you otherwise. So you pack them in a waterproof packet.
Where do you put those?
You put them inside your swimming trunks, in a waterproof packet. Yeah, you have to be absolutely streamlined. I had a compass, also, waterproof and all that, just in case I was swept away, and you may be out.
Disoriented.
You totally get disoriented.
So then you're swimming out, and the searchlights start at a certain hour, do they?
Yeah, they started almost as soon as I put off. I was again very lucky, because a minute later, a minute, earlier, they can see you still, in the dusk. A minute later, the searchlight come too close. You got to be far enough again in that dusk, away from the first searchlight, which is very powerful in the city. Because as the arc increases, it doesn't pass as frequently over you. If you're here, it's just like over you all the time. So farther out, bypassed the first searchlight, got terribly, scared, I guess, by the searchlight that, they're going to find you, because that's the first one, and you're already in no man's land, if they find you, that's it.
What did you do when the light approached?
But the first one I got frightened, and as soon as it hit me, I dived, and then I realized if I keep doing that, I just won't make it. Not only that, as I found out later on from border guards, the sonar devices will get you. Anything like a small submarine, anything that's moving in the direction towards Turkey, along a steady line, is not a dolphin or a shark, is a person trying to escape. And what they do then, if they can't find you, they drop a depth charge in that general area, and then all the fish and everything will just float up, and then they can sort out if you're among them,
So how often did the searchlights pass over you? Every 30 seconds or a minute?
No, much longer. Once you got out and you're virtually, because you see, you can get out completely out of the range of searchlights at 5-6 kilometers, they get very hazy. But then the patrol vessels take over. And they're much less predictable in a way, because you could literally run very close, because they go without lights. Suddenly they turn on their own searchlight, and all of a sudden you're in the range.
And one searchlight would take over.
When you
from
come out
another.
of the other range, the other one comes up there.
Yeah.
And the most powerful, also dangerous, was just before the Turkish border, and so I had to hide at the submarine base, which I
Still,
did.
how much north of the border was the submarine base?
It was very close to the border.
Really?
It was close to the border, but I don't know how, but close to the border.
Pyotr realized that he'd never make it in one night, so he snuck into a base and slept through the next day.
Planned that, or?
No, totally, I didn't know. It was a secret
Yeah,
base, you know.
but you just had no choice. But
I had no choice. If I kept staying in the sea, you know, the dawn would come, and the patrol, you know, the Soviet patrol boat coming up, picking up 2 kilometers away from the Turkish shore.
So you had thought that you'd do it all in one night, had you?
I calculated by speed I could have, but because of the cold currents,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, the only other swimmer who came close to what I did, he was swept away by currents beyond Batumi, you know, south, because he didn't have flippers. He miscalculated, maybe got strong currents, whatever.
So the next day, and the next night you continued.
I don't know if I continued.
And what time did you actually?
Took almost the whole night again, because I was tired. By the time you get away, you know, past the last searchlight, out in the sea, back again, you know, you've added again another 15 kilometers.
So what time did you step ashore, do you think?
Would have been 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning.
huh?
Yeah.
On a beach, or?
On a beach, beautiful beach.
Was the dawn coming up?
Dawn was coming up, you know, and the natural instinct was just to go around, hopping around, and, you know, saying, you know, I've beat you, but you couldn't.
Nobody around?
Well, there's no one around, but, you know, you knew that you couldn't take that risk, so you went for the nearest bush.
But was there any village there or house?
There was absolutely nothing to tell, so I had to walk and try to find later on, you know, during the day, some kind of, you know, had a drink at the creek. And what happened there was that a small boy saw me drinking at the creek, and, you know, he looked like he could have been a little Georgian boy or Abkhazian boy or a Turkish boy, you know. And I spoke to him in Russian, because that's all I could. I mean, I knew how to greet in Turkish, but, you know, and I said to him, and he just ran away. So I was again no closer to knowing where I was, but I knew he was going to call people.
Yeah.
So I immediately, you know, knowing that to avoid the dogs, you had to walk up the hill against the stream of the creek as far as possible quickly. The dogs wouldn't pick up your trail, and then through very rough terrain with incredible sort of bushes and all that, you know, I would run far away until I could hear no dogs barking anywhere, you know, and then I would spend the rest of the day there. And at night I went far into the mountains, another 20 kilometers, because then you were absolutely sure when the muezzin, you know, in the minaret, you know, in the local village, which was south, which was north rather from me, so I was in Turkish territory, you know, started singing his evening prayer, I knew I was safe.